Hello. So this video is about the eclipses of 2017 and specifically about our mind management, and it can even amount to, as it were, trauma management. The key questions we need to consider about what effect an eclipse will have on us, first of all, is do we have a planet there? That's very important to bear in mind. I'll be going through the dates and locations of the eclipses, but it'll have a very big effect on you if you have a planet there conjunct the eclipse. And eclipses, of course, are huge energies of breakthrough or downfall. The eclipse energies produce earthquakes in the Earth's crust, and if they occur beneath the surface of the ocean, they produce tsunamis. And the same thing happens in our life. We're largely water, so we're affected by the movement of the moon, and especially eclipses. And we'll feel it particularly dependent on the moon in our birth chart. So before I go into the details of the eclipses, I want you to think in terms of how comfortable is the moon in my birth chart. It's all to do with your experiences of the energies of your mother and your emotions arising therefrom, and therefore your consciousness arising therefrom. And for example, to have moon conjunct Ketu, the south node of the moon, or Rahu, is particularly difficult. So if you have that, you have to say, aha, I have to really watch it at eclipse times. All of us will feel sensitive the day of an eclipse and just around. But if you have a problematic placement of moon in your chart arising from problematic mother energies while you were in the womb and when you were born in your earliest infancy, then you really need to be aware of this stuff. So the next thing to see is, well, is your moon supported? Basically, if our moon is Kemadruma or has no planets either side of it, or rather no Vedic planets either side of it, then the stability of our mind is more of a problem, and we do need to be aware of that at all times, and especially eclipses. Now, it's no good saying, oh, I've got Uranus near my moon. Well, that's no support at all. So we're talking about, the more gentle planets being near the moon to give it support. And you need to be aware, for example, if you have Saturn conjunct your moon, I think that's a very difficult placement throughout your life to be aware of and to work with, because otherwise Saturn can starve your moon of energy, and your moon will feed and feed and feed Saturn, and so your life could become quite grim or boxed, and you can pass that on to other people. To have Uranus conjunct your moon, is the wired, nervy, irascible mother, and you can pass that on to other people. To have Neptune conjunct your moon, there's the risk of illusion. Chiron conjunct the moon, huge risks around mothering and, the whole sort of sense of who we are, our body, our mind. Pluto conjunct the moon, control, intensity, creating utter illusion as we control everything and everyone around us. I'm obviously caricaturizing, you have to look at the detail. And in a moment I'm going to mention when the eclipses are and where in the heavens, but the big thing I want to get over also with is your nakshatras. Vedic astrology has a 27 sign lunar zodiac, the 27 nakshatras, and they are such accurate depictions of our emotional self and of course our consciousness arising therefrom. Now I've put up on my YouTube channel a number of video presentations of nakshatras, and I do a wonderful course, www.nakshatrasadvancedcourse.com. In part 1, you work through each of the nakshatras, studying it, looking at how it manifests in your chart and in my chart. And if neither of us have a planet in that nakshatra, bring in family members, friends or celebrities. And in part 2, you look at the immensely powerful interpretation techniques using nakshatras, Navtara, special nakshatra, how you will get on with someone who has a moon sign, 5 moon signs from yours, that type of thing, derived position. The whole magnificent Vedic study of love and relationships based on the moon positions of the two people in the nakshatras, and bringing in a few other things. The whole nakshatra astrology of our health, where our health risks are, how we should manage them. And the whole point is, the nakshatras depict, often in a novelistic way, the awful sides of us, as well as the wonderful potential. It's so useful to have this novelistic global potential. Often, this is important, we have to go through the awful sides to see how awful they are, to hopefully arise to a more enlightened use of our personality typology and our lunar energies. So well worth studying. So, to quickly mention where the eclipses are, and I will be doing a blog about this so you can read up more detail. Well, the first one is on the 11th of February 2017, a lunar eclipse, and that's in Western, Sun 22 Aquarius, Moon 22 Leo, a full moon. The second of the 4 eclipses, 26th of February, a solar eclipse, and that is in Western, Sun 8 Pisces, Moon 8 Pisces, a new moon. The third of the 4 is a lunar or full moon eclipse, Western astrology zodiac, the tropical zodiac, 15 Leo for the Sun, 15 Aquarius for the moon, and fourthly, 21st of August, total solar eclipse, Western Sun at 28 Leo, Moon at 28 Leo. Okay, I want to just show how the nakshatras can be built in. Let's look at the eclipse of the 26th of February 2017. Well, that's in the Vedic lunar sign of Shatabhishak nakshatra. And in fact, there are a lot of planets in Shatabhishak. Now, Shatabhishak is called the healer's sign, but you need to remember that it's often through healing our wounds and our darkness that we become a healer. And I know a number of Shatabhishak people who have been quite destabilized by this. And the big message is, don't pass on the mental instability to others. Use it to perceive how you need to heal your moon. And of course, we're looking at things like kindness. We're looking at things like regular mantra to stabilize your mind, to provide continuity, and to provide a barometer of how your mind's stability is changing day by day through a given period. Truth is so important because it can often be quite hurtful to admit you're behaving appallingly and projecting out onto others. You have to be honest. And but also there's the sense that just as eclipses produce earthquakes, they activate our bodily held trauma. Now, my partner Maggie Pashley, so www.maggiepashley.com, does many healing methods, and one of them, like SciTap, for example, is very much orientated to measuring where trauma is held in your body. At an eclipse time, that makes you, that much more jittery and so forth. Just as the Earth's crust has earthquakes, so your mind and consciousness, will shudder and vibrate from the held trauma, not in the Earth's crust as an earthquake, but in your body and in different parts of your body. So we need to be honest, we need to heal. We don't need to pass it on. We need to work out ways of stabilizing our mind. We need to use the right combinations of healing methods. Look at my websites for how my astrology combines Vedic astrology and Western astrology, where Western astrology is psychodynamic and evolutionary, and how there's always the healing perspective, the opportunity for bringing in healing. So I've mentioned the nakshatra, the solar eclipse of the 26th of February brings in. Well, just to say that the one on the 21st of August, obviously I'm skimming here, is a horrendous eclipse. It's appalling. It's visible right across the United States, the first eclipse of this magnitude for 100 years. It's on the very, very difficult Ashlesha Mula Gandanta. That's the transition point from Vedic Cancer to Vedic Leo. Mars and Rahu are transiting, and they've just entered that Gandanta, that terribly sensitive transition points from the dissolution of water into the void before the first flicker of fire. It's actually right on the ascendant of the chart of the President of America, Donald Trump. What will happen? But the whole point is loads of people will have their minds affected by this very violent eclipse. And just to say, this is very important, just after it, the Kalsarpa Yoga re-emerges. That's Kalsarpa Yoga is where all the planets are caught between the nodes of the moon. Now that was running in the heavens until January this year, and so it very much created political instability in the United Kingdom and the United States. It's a terribly divisive energy. The consequences will run for centuries from what's happened. They haven't yet fully emerged. But the Kalsarpa re-arises from the 17th of September to the 8th of January 2018. So, oh yes, and the other thing is I've mentioned Gandanta energies. It is important to know that Saturn passes 3 times through the Gandanta between Vedic Scorpio and Vedic Sagittarius. So Saturn is changing from water to fire, and from a more materialistic orientation to a more spiritual orientation. So Saturn's very undecided and will grind away at our negative karmas as it works through that very sensitive position in space. And above all, Uranus is transiting from Pisces to Aries, in other words, from Revati Nakshatra to Ashwini Nakshatra, all this year and into January 2018. So if you have a planet here, particularly if it's your moon, well, you'll be feeling the revolutionary bite of Uranus. Now, Ashwini is the healer's sign. So many Ashwinis, their energies are very driven and panicked, but that makes them become healers. And so Uranus will now be bringing in revolution to the sort of healing orientation they bring, to the intuition they bring to the healing, to their healing methods. So it's a period of great change, is 2017, and the eclipses are much more influential than people can imagine. If you have a planet where an eclipse is, you are going to be put in touch with the held distress in your body and your mind, just as an eclipse activates held stress in the Earth's tectonic plates and causes earthquakes. You need to hear this. So have a look at the blog, which my webmaster will be posting shortly, which lists the dates, and have a reading about this. Do either my Vedic course or my Western course, where each of them has crossover to the other for the fullest declaration of astrology. So I look forward to hearing from you. And by the way, the mountain in the background is Ben Bulben Mountain in the far west of Ireland, near which Maggie and I run our healing centre. Okay, hope to hear from you. Thank you.